done that, but I hadn't. So from this stage, the recording will be, the session will be recorded. It's moving back to the rules of the webinar. So yeah, from this session, it will be recorded. Just a quick go back again, because otherwise I'd miss the front end off. So this is an introduction to the high velocity IT training course. Rules of the webinar are all microphones on mute. If you disconnect, then just sign back in again. It is being recorded now, and there will be a Q&A session available at the end. If anyone wants to ask any questions about the course, someone will be there to answer the questions, or we have a chat facility. You can log any questions on the chat facility as we go through the presentation. So, quick introduction to Purple Griffin. We've been around for 18 years. We primarily deliver ITIL training, but we now have a portfolio of over 300 different courses, UK based, but we operate worldwide. Not so much at the moment, but hopefully in the future we'll be doing a lot more international travel. Myself, Steve Lawless, I'm a trainer consultant with Purple Griffin. Been working in IT for over 40 years now. I've been working with ITIL for over 30 years, from version 1 right up to the ITIL 4, which is the current release. In addition, I deliver training in VeriSM or Verism, DevOps, ITAM, SIAM, and now artificial intelligence. So let's have a look at the high velocity IT specialist course. So we're going to have a look at what the course covers. We'll look at why it's important, who it might be applicable to, what are the new concepts which are introduced in high velocity IT, and what's the same. So looking at ITIL version 3, Axelos said not to throw the baby out with the bathwater. So a lot of good things were in ITIL version 3, and the idea is to build on them rather than replace them. This is the current ITIL 4 certification scheme, and as you can see, ITIL, the ITIL specialists are 3 modules, one of them being the high velocity IT. So who should go on this module? Well, people who are looking to work in a more agile or lean way, or organizations are going through some sort of digital transformation, or are looking to adopt DevOps and wondering what they should do with service management. How does that fit in with DevOps? So it covers all those sorts of areas, and it sits alongside the other modules in the managing professional stream. For anyone coming across from the ITIL version 3 expert certification, who would be taking the managing professional transition module, then high velocity IT is covered in the space of about 1 day, whereas the high velocity IT course itself is a 3-day course. So you'd be covering about 1/3 of the concepts and 1/3 of the content of the book. And the course covers probably about half of the content of the high velocity IT book. So there is a lot still there in the book. Not everything is actually covered in the course, so lots of useful information. And obviously there's a prerequisite of ITIL foundation before you undertake the high velocity ITIL specialist course. Which sequence you should take these courses in if you're looking to move to ITIL Managing Professional is really up to you. Personally, I would probably do them in the order they're there, in terms of create, deliver and support, drive stakeholder value, then high velocity IT, and probably then direct, plan and improve. Okay, the exam, as with all the specialist courses, the only one that's different, which is the strategist course, which is DITS. But all of the other courses are 90 minutes, 28 out of 40, so 70% You've got to score to pass it. It's 40 simple multiple choice exam questions. There's no graded answers, and the majority of the questions sit in what we call Bloom's level 3, which is, can you apply the idea or the concept? Some of the questions, about a third of them, will be at the Bloom's level 2. So can you explain, describe, understand the concept? Okay, so HVIT, what part of the value chain does it cover? Well, it covers all elements. I've been known to describe high velocity IT as ITIL on steroids, and it's really about how can we deliver better, more resilient, quicker products and services to our customers, and how do we get value to them? How can we co-create the value with them better? How do we do improved planning? How do we do quicker improvement? How do we engage quicker? So when we're talking about high velocity, it's across the whole value chain. In fact, it's across the whole value system. So part of the HVIT course is really to go back to basics, look at things like the SVS, look at the 4 dimensions, look at the value chain, look at value streams within the value chain. And we'll get onto that a little bit later as we just go through this overview. We've also got the guiding principles. And if you look at the guiding principles, there's 7 guiding principles in ITIL 4. If you compare them to ITIL Practitioner, where we had 9 guiding principles, if you look at them compared to the guiding principles in Agile, there's 12 guiding principles there. These guiding principles lend themselves to Agile, lean, collaborative way of working. So if you just look at them, collaborate and promote visibility, optimize and automate, progress iteratively with feedback, keep it simple and practical. These are concepts which lend themselves to high velocity IT. So whenever we're doing anything in a high velocity IT environment, then we should consider which of these guiding principles apply and how we would apply them to gain the benefits from them. So the syllabus suggests that for high velocity IT training course, we need to look at various concepts and how they can be applied to a digital enterprise. But we also need to understand what a digital enterprise is, and also understand what the impact is of trying to do things in an agile way on IT. So how can IT, that department, still function? How can we do IT in a digital enterprise? How can we gain the benefits of high velocity IT? So first thing we need to do really is to understand the terminology. So understanding what a digital organization is. And a digital organization is really an organization that's enabled by digital technology. So it could be an e-commerce site, or it could be an organization which operates in a social media environment in terms of influencing people's purchases or data collection. So it's a digital organization. You can transform to a digital organization from a non-digital organization, but it's about understanding what the concept is. Also understanding what high velocity IT is. And when we talk about velocity, we're talking about direction and speed. So it's about making sure we're getting to the right place as quickly as possible. And it's not just limited to fast software development. A high velocity IT organization is one where we engage with our customers quickly. We support them in an agile, quick way. We can deploy multiple releases on a daily basis. Okay, it's not just about the software development side. It's the whole end-to-end relationship we have between service provider and service consumer. So it's about how we can even realize the value of our IT products and services in a quick way. The terminology is around things like digital transformation, and digital transformation is talking about the use of digital technology to enable significant improvement in an organization. So it could be maybe a retail organization that's gone online. So it has an online presence now, which will develop over time, and maybe the organization may move to being totally online and not on the high street. Also, not to be confused with IT transformation, where we're looking at major changes within an IT department. Okay, so IT transformation can support digital transformation, but when we're talking about digital transformation, we're talking really about the whole business, not just the IT department as a service provider. Other definitions we're looking at is trying to understand what a digital product or digital service is. And this is where the product is delivered online. It's how we deliver our services. So instead of being maybe a cinema, we're a streaming service. We deliver digital products in terms of people being able to access movies and entertainment in a digital way, rather than sitting in a cinema with popcorn and Coke or whatever else we drink in the cinema. Also understanding what digital technology is, and digital technology really is a combination of information technology and operation technology that's digitized. So digital technology basically underpins our ability to deliver digital products and services. Let's just move away from the terminology a little bit. So in the course, we're looking at whether it's appropriate for all organizations to become high velocity IT type organizations. So is it appropriate to transform? And there's probably a small checklist. So is the funding available to actually transform? Is there a clear business case? Is the return on investment to move to maybe a e-commerce organization rather than a high street operation? Is the transformation within our risk appetite as a business? Do we have the resources available? Not just the funding, but the people with the right skills and capabilities. And really, is this our culture as an organization? Does this fit with our overall organizational strategy? Is it a direction we want to go in? So if we tick all the boxes, then okay, send all your IT staff on the high velocity IT training course. This section sort of links back to a Drive Stakeholder Value training course, where we talk about the customer journey. And with a high velocity environment, there's still a customer journey, but that customer journey is it's a lot more agile. It's got greater velocity. So how do we onboard these new customers? How do we co-create value? How do we see benefits realization? So just moving on to the next slide a little bit. This is what we call the customer journey that we would look at in the Drive Stakeholder Value training course. So 7 steps. We look at exploration from both sides, from the customer and service provider's perspective, understanding the market, who the providers are, who the customers are, who the various stakeholders are. Then a period of engagement. Then we shape some sort of offering to our consumer. Then we agree, so there's an expectation. We've aligned our expectations and we agree the service that's going to be delivered. Then we onboard the customer. in terms of embarking on the journey, this could be a 3-5 year contract. We're working with this customer, or if it's an in-house customer, there's maybe a longer life expectancy in that relationship. How we co-create value, and then actually how we harvest and benefit and realize the benefits of the relationship between provider and consumer. So that's the standard customer journey approach. In a high velocity IT environment, we've sort of shortened that life cycle. There's an expectation that the life cycle will be shorter. Still starts with exploration. So consumer and provider both looking at the market. In terms of discovery, this happens as part of our exploration. So we identify who's the provider we want to deal with from a customer's perspective, and we identify our target customers. And then it's a case of onboarding. So the onboarding is we've actually combined the agreement and the negotiation into that sort of gap between exploration and onboarding. And equally, we may be offboarding a customer from a previous supplier. So we onboard, we co-create, we offboard them at the end of the relationship. And this relationship might be a day, a week, a month. May not be a long-term relationship. And then we retire that customer. And there may be an opportunity to actually re-engage with them at a later stage. But the value is co-created throughout that life cycle, really, in terms of brand awareness, in terms of the customers engaging with us and seeing value in every step of the relationship. So the next part of the course that we're going to look at is looking at ITIL really as an operating model, and the SVS, the Service Value System, is an operating model, but looking at how digital products and that the life cycle of digital products actually map to an ITIL operating model. Okay, and the way we do that is we look at the 4 dimensions of IT, and we'll look at those just quite quickly, one at a time. So we're looking at organizations and people, and it depends really on how the service provider, how the IT department is as part of our organization. Is it co-located? Is there no differentiation between IT and the business? Is IT the business? If that's the case, then we probably don't have things like service level agreements, but we do want to monitor and measure the service provision. So we'd still be looking at metrics and KPIs, but it wouldn't be a case of negotiating and developing service level agreements. We look at it from perspective of information and technology. Then typically in high velocity IT environment, there's higher demand. We're looking for speed to market. We're looking at real-time information, so we're looking at dashboards, we're looking at chat-up type technologies. And information and data has become a valuable resource. So it could be that we're using marketing data to target our customer base for sales, or to acquire data and information from them. And underpinning this, we've got artificial intelligence and machine learning growth, which requires access to good information, data and knowledge about our consumers and customers. Looking at it, high velocity IT from a partner supplier perspective, typically what we're looking at here is sort of cloud service providers, SaaS solutions, so software as a service solutions, platform as a service, infrastructure as a service as well. So we're looking at those suppliers who can deliver good quality, quick, agile services. And we tend to treat our partners and suppliers really as commodity providers, so we can dip in and dip out of that relationship. But we still need to understand the end-to-end service provision. We're just doing things a lot quicker. Also, in terms of streams and value streams and processes and a high velocity IT environment, what we're looking at really is to create a value stream for each digital product and service that we offer, which may seem a little bit counterintuitive in terms of we've got lots more value streams, but those value streams are very focused on a particular way of delivering and co-creating value with our consumers. So the benefits outweigh the costs of developing those value streams. Okay, so we've looked at the operating model in a high velocity IT environment. What we're looking at now as part of the high velocity IT training course are looking at some fundamental concepts which are used really within the operating model, and looking at how high velocity IT environment actually puts pressures on them, how it can use these various concepts. So let's have a look at them, and we'll run through them fairly quickly. So I'll take each one in order. So starting with ethics. So when we're talking about ethics in a high velocity IT environment, it's really looking at things like sustainability, political, environmental, social, economic sustainability. It's looking for morality in terms of what's good for our customers, consumers, and society. So we create a relationship in terms of ethical relationship between consumer and provider. So we're looking at how we can apply that to a high velocity IT environment. So in terms of concept, it needs to be similar to our 7 guiding principles, that ethics aren't thrown out with the bathwater. So we're not throwing baby out away. So in terms of things like ethics, if we're collecting data, maybe visual recognition data, then should we sell that? If we're collecting biometric data, then should we be selling maybe that data to insurance companies? Even if it's depersonalized. So what's the ethical element around that? Okay, safety culture. And this is where we create a culture within our organization where people are allowed to express their concerns. They can express their thoughts on a particular matter. So we provide protection to people. People feel safe in this environment that they're working in. So we can actually then develop better relations, better collaborative activities, where we have shared beliefs and perceptions in terms of the services we're delivering and who our customers are and how our customers are treated. A lean culture, not to be confused with lean as a concept itself. So in terms of lean culture, we're looking to develop a culture which is resilient and adaptable. We want to create social patterns in terms of the way that we work. We want to develop trust and respect. Also in terms of supporting a learning culture. So it's okay to fail, but we learn by those failures. But we also need to develop obviously products and services So we need to be focused in terms of our end goals, but to do it in a collaborative way, which is resilient and also adaptable. So drawing on those 7 guiding principles again. The Toyota Kata is an interesting one. We'll cover this in the training course. And this is about developing a mental model, a behavior pattern. So it underpins, it's underpinned by scientific thinking, I should say. So when we're looking at Toyota Kata, we're looking at ways of identifying the causes of problems, helping us with agile planning, also helping us to unlearn previously, well, old habits, probably. That's probably the best way to describe them, and develop confidence and competence in what we do. So just have a little look at Toyota Kata. And you may see some similarities with things like Deming's Plan, Do, Check, Act. So first step in Toyota Kata really is to understand the direction, understand the challenge. So what is it we've got to resolve? Is it a problem? Is there a plan we've got to put together? Step 2, just going back to the bottom left of the diagram, is trying to understand where you currently are. Step 3, understand where we can get to. So what's a target condition that's achievable? So maybe what's our first milestone? And then 4, understand what obstacles are in our way and how we can experiment to overcome those obstacles to achieve our first target condition, to allow us to then go through iterative steps to achieve our overall vision, goal, or challenge. Okay, we'll go into that in a lot more detail in the training course. We've also got concepts of lean, which is looking at where we can identify waste and remove unnecessary waste. Looking at agile, so we're looking at close, iterative, collaborative activities with our end users. We'll look at resilience. So what do we mean by resilience? And we introduce concepts like DevSecOps, or site reliability engineering. And we look at continuous as well as a concept. So continuous integration, continuous deployment. So we'll look at all of these various approaches in a high velocity IT environment. We've also got concepts like service dominant logic, which is where we're trying to do something with or with another party, and the focus is on developing the relationship with our partners, in terms of focusing on the service that is to be co-created. So it's looking at things in a collaborative way. It's about developing win-win type environments. There's also a goods dominant logic, which we look at as part of the training course as well. Design thinking is a concept we'll cover, and this is a set of cognitive and practical processes which we can engage, which will allow us to focus on better quality design of digital products and services. So it helps us create better customer experiences, so CX and UX, user experience. It's about assisting our customers, helping our customers get their jobs done or their problems resolved. So it's mainly about how we design the end-to-end experience to make sure that customers and consumers of services and products see that we're working with them to provide the best quality service. So and that needs to be designed in. That just doesn't just come about by accident. We'll also look at concept of complexity thinking, and this is looking at a systems type approach to the recognition of the different levels of complexity in systems and services, and the way services are delivered. So we can look at simple systems, complicated systems, complex systems, chaotic systems, and how we can take a different approach, and also understand the concept of disorder. And one of the examples we'll look at is something called kinefin. So we'll look at that in the training course, go into a bit of details there. Okay, so other things we're looking at as part of the High Velocity IT training course is looking at the practices which we have in ITIL. So it's 34 of them. So how do they contribute to delivering those products and services? So first of all, we probably need to look at the objectives which are associated with digital products and services. So typically we're looking to develop valuable investments, products and services which our consumers want to invest in, but whether it's an internal customer or an external customer. Typically we're looking at fast development and the fast realization of the value of the service. Looking at resilient operations, where if we fail, we recover quickly, but typically we don't want to fail, so we have failover built into our systems and services. We want co-creation of value, because we don't know everything about the service. Our consumers are probably better placed to actually understand the challenges around service delivery and service consumption. And we also want assured conformance to things like governance, risk and compliance activities, which could range from sort of health and safety, cybersecurity, software licensing compliance. So we've got 5 sort of main areas. So for each of those areas, we'll just have a quick look, see what we cover in the course. So in terms of achieving valuable investments, the 2 main underpinning practice areas are portfolio management, relationship management. And the techniques we'll look at there are things like minimum viable product. So in terms of a valuable investment, how do we achieve that? We achieve that through experimentation, in terms of things like A and B testing. So we're looking at this really high velocity IT environment, valuable investment. How do we do that? And we're looking at fast development, a lot more practices involved here. So typically we're looking at around things like architecture management, business analysis, deployment management, validation and testing, and software development and management. And the techniques we explore are things like continual business analysis, blameless post-mortem, so review as a technique, infrastructure as code, continual integration, continual deployment, and concepts like Kanban. So it also pulls on things like MVP, minimum viable product. How do we move from a minimum viable product to the next version? So how do we do that fast development? Third area we're looking at is resilient operations. Again, number of practices we're looking at here. So availability, capacity and performance, monitoring and event management, problem management, service continuity management, and infrastructure and platform management. So these are sort of from an ITIL 3 perspective, these are the warranty areas that we typically look at. And the techniques we will look at in this area are things like technical debt, chaos engineering, so maybe making use of chaos monkeys. Definition of done, so we're taking concepts from Agile and Scrum, Kanban. Version control. Version control's been around for centuries, but it's a valid concept in terms of resilient operations. AI ops, so artificial intelligence operations, and integrated automation. Concepts such as techniques as chat ops, and things like site reliability engineering. So looking at, again, DevSecOps type concept. Fourth area is really around contribution and co-creation and collaboration. So how do we co-create value with our service consumer? And the practices we're looking at here are around things like relationship management, service design, service desk. So looking at it from a tactical, strategic and operational perspective. And in terms of the practices, for each of these sort of 5 objectives we're looking to achieve, on the course we're looking at typically the purpose of the practice, but also how do we define whether we've been successful. So we're looking at things like practice success factors. So similar to key performance indicators, which just focus on performance, what we're looking at here is a practice which is people, process and technology effectively. So what success factors would encompass people, process and technology to prove that this practice is actually working? So the techniques we'll look at for the co-creation objective are around things like the service experience, user experience, customer experience. Okay. And in terms of assured conformance, in terms of the techniques and practices that we're looking at here, typically this is around things like information security management and risk management. And techniques we're looking at in this section would be things like DevOps or audit defense toolkit type activities, again, DevSecOps, peer review, and the various different types of peer review that we can have. We just mentioned 2 of the practices in this section, but really a lot more practices would contribute. It's just which 2 practices really in this case. These are the 2 with the highest interaction or the highest or the greatest benefits of delivering success in this area of assured conformance. Okay, so we tend to end each of these sections, these sessions, with a sample question. So hopefully I've given you enough information to give you a decent stab at answering the question. So the question is, a software developer spends time talking to users about how they might use the software. What's this an example of? And hopefully, if you know a little bit about design thinking, you will have come up with the answer design thinking. Okay, so that is the end of the course overview. So hopefully in, what was that, about 45 minutes, we've covered enough of the high velocity IT training course to give you insight into whether this course would be of use to you, is of interest to you, and what the course actually covers. And I don't know whether we've had any questions. If I can ask Bob to interject.
No, I'm seeing Stephen's just typed something up there, said many thanks for going through this. I feel honoured. So through there, but that's the only thing that's come up.
Right. Okay. That's great. Well, it'll be recorded, and for those who didn't make it, we'll stick it on the website, and hopefully it'll be of use. Thanks for co-chairing, Bob.
Wait a minute, Stephen's still typing.
Oh,
so.
Right. Okay. I'll wait for Stephen.
Okay. Yeah, that's fine. I think. Yeah. Regards. Yeah, I think that's all I've seen. Isn't it? There's no questions on this, Steve.
Right. Lovely. Okay. Yeah. As with all of these sessions, if anyone is watching a recording and comes up with a question that they'd like answered, then obviously feel free to email myself or Bob, or email info@purplegriffin.com, and the question will be passed on to us. Or either that, or go onto the website and use our chat ops facility, and hopefully myself or one of our account managers will be there to answer the question. So thanks everyone for their time, and I'll stop the sharing and stop the recording.
Cheers, Steve. Thank you.
Cheers, Bob. Cheers, Stephen.